I look good, yeah? Right? Hello, I'm BoredGamer, the thinking man's potato. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Amazon's Lumberyard, its sort of like interaction with Star Citizen, maybe talk a bit about Star Citizen using it as an engine, some problems that we've heard in the news recently about Amazon Lumberyard. It potentially is struggling. I'm going to use a couple of articles from TechRaptor. I've got the wiki pages, and we'll talk about some of that stuff. So Amazon Game Studios lays off dozens of employees, and this is from the 14th of June and just after E3. So according to a report from Kotaku's Jason Schreier, Amazon Game Studios quietly laid off dozens of employees yesterday during the final day of E3 2019. Amazon first started developing games back in 2010, announcing to move to a AAA game development studio with a proper Amazon Game Studios in 2014, until then having focused mostly on mobile games. 2 years after the studio's initial announcement, at the September 2016 TwitchCon, they revealed their first 3 games, Breakaway, Crucible, and New World. Now, New World is a cool little MMO, which I think might be pretty good when it comes out. They've been running like alpha tests and stuff of it like that. I think Breakaway has actually been cancelled. Crucible is a one of the games that we always need, battle royales. And I think they're all relatively minor studios, or Amazon's own studio. Breakaway was cancelled in March of last year, you see. Since then, we haven't heard much more about Amazon Game Studios. Reportedly, the affected employees were told yesterday, which should have been on the 13th of June, I believe. They've got 60 days to look for new positions within Amazon. So they're sort of like redistributing some of them. At the end of this period, if they don't manage to find employment, they will receive severance packages. Okay, so same source was also... That's what I say to that. The same source also informed Kotaku that Amazon cancelled some unannounced games. Okay, well, we don't know what they are. While the company didn't confirm the exact number of employees that are to be laid off, they did release an official statement to Kotaku. Amazon Game Studios is reorganizing some of our teams to allow us to prioritize development of New World, Crucible, and new unannounced projects, which we're excited to reveal in the future. These moves are the result of regular business planning cycles, where we align resources to match evolving long-range priorities. We're working closely with all our employees affected by these changes to assist them in finding new roles within Amazon. Amazon is deeply committed to games and continues to invest heavily in Amazon Game Studios, Twitch Prime, AWS, which is the obviously Amazon Web Services, our retail businesses, and other areas within Amazon. So it does sound like, yeah, it's game development, it's just general cycles of business where they move employees, fire employees, they don't renew contracts. Some projects don't work, some do. It could be that they're not struggling at all. It could be that they're struggling a lot. I mean, we haven't seen any major releases using Lumberyard yet from a AAA studio, I suppose. So Amazon are sort of like trying to bridge the gap as both a engine provider and a AAA development studio, taking that CryEngine code and building it into something potentially more. It should also be noted that some of the high-profile developers that were hired by Amazon Game Studios after a move to AAA development, such as Portal director Kim Swift and Far Cry 2 director Clint Hocking, have since left the company and never shipped any titles. So I think that's quite interesting. I would chuck that put that in there so you can have a read of it yourself. But then, more recently, a couple of days ago, there was a which has since been corrected article from Amazon, from TechRaptor, Amazon Game Studios struggling due to a Lumberyard Engine. So this has been corrected in the fact that they said that Star Citizen had dropped the Lumberyard Engine. They weren't using it anymore, which is obviously incorrect. So take that with a pinch of salt with some of this reporting on this. If you do not have a really sort of like engaged, interested research sort of pattern for certain things, if you're just reporting on it based on quick searches or as far as your understanding of it is, or what's easily accessible, then you do miss things occasionally, which is why I like to get stuff from multiple sources. Sometimes that it's not necessarily that the journalist was bad or whatever, but they just missed some stuff. Sometimes it is because they're bad, don't get me wrong, or sometimes it's because they're biased or whatever, or sometimes it's because they're reporting on news, and it's sort of like several degrees detached. Last week, we reported on Amazon Game Studios laying off employees during E3, and today there's a new report in the Wall Street Journal that claims that the megacorporation's game development division seems to be struggling to advance in the industry, and most of the issues encountered by the developers at the studio can be rooted in the company's licensed engine known as Lumberyard. That sort of makes sense. If they are struggling, it's probably going to be based on either their employees, their sort of management, or the actual core of their product and their engine, which is based on Crytek's CryEngine, by some accounts a very complex and difficult to use technology that was only made available for non-commercial game development in 2011, or was it 2010, 2011? Around then. Prior to that, the engine was custom made for internal use at Crytek, and the Wall Street Journal relies on a few undisclosed sources to detail these issues. In spite of our efforts, we didn't achieve the breakthrough that made the game what we all hoped it could be. So this is one of the games that obviously was cut. Amazon staff wrote in Reddit post last year revealing the cancellation of Breakaway, one of the 3 games that was announced for the PC for it previously. The company had described it as an online multiplayer mythological sports brawler. We've got loads of brawlers. We've got loads of things that look like mobile games. We've got loads of battle royale games. I'm not sure if that's a fault of Amazon Lumberyard or more of a fault of what they think is appropriate to make on a platform. I would like to see pioneering stuff. I want to see new games. I want to see new types of ways of doing things. I want to see interesting stuff that isn't just, well, let's just do battle royales because they're popular at the moment. Let's do a card game. One additional PC game was never announced publicly, but has been cancelled. According to people familiar with the matter, Amazon Game Studios last year released a car racing title called Grand Tour Game for consoles, but it sold poorly. Yeah, I could have probably told you it would sell poorly, potentially. Well, I didn't even know that there was a game released called Grand Tour Game. The software, a so-called engine known as Lumberyard, was a so-called engine. I mean, it is an engine. It's a game engine. Wasn't built for the kind of multiplayer games Amazon wanted to make, and the company's efforts to retool it have proved difficult. So this is an opinion of someone that they talked to rather than factual. It's anecdotal. The current and former employees said, as a result, making Breakaway, for example, was like driving a train while the tracks were still being laid down, these people explained. And this might be true. I mean, they might not have fully developed the Lumberyard sort of tools, but when it comes to Star Citizen has just grabbed the engine and has made their own modules. And it's one of the things that I want to talk about here as well, is how much it has Amazon Lumberyard benefited from Star Citizen, sort of like developing it on Lumberyard Engine. Are they getting like bug fixes? Are they working together to push for new stuff together? And is that going to allow them to have a much better multiplayer experience for Lumberyard? They're still ironing out the kinks of what it means to own and maintain your own engine, said a developer working at Amazon Game Studios, referring to a separate team responsible for Lumberyard. That also makes sense. That might have actually been part of a talking about Lumberyard in general, and might have been quite a positive sort of like the conversation they had with him, but that sort of like might be a little bit tinted to, well, there's still bugs with it. Yeah, there's still bugs with it. Technically, the engine is going to constantly get updates. But we'll talk about that in a second. Lumberyard was announced as an engine of Star Citizen by its creator Chris Roberts in 2016. As of last December, the company was still facing a lawsuit from Crytek over the use of Crytek's CryEngine. Lumberyard, and I've covered that loads on my channel. Sort of like lots of the Crytek lawsuit stuff has been dismissed, admittedly, at least some of the core of it. It's now sort of like at the moment, they're waiting on a bond. So CIG wants a $2.2 million bond from Crytek to prove that they can pay their legal expenses if CIG are seen as the prevailing party in the end. And that's quite possible. So that's been interesting. And Crytek recently got new lawyers, getting rid of Squadron and going for some what appear to be less expensive lawyers. Maybe more effective, I don't know. Lumberyard forms the base of the studio's StarEngine, a heavily modified version of CryEngine, derived from Lumberyard. Last month, we also reported on mismanagement at Cloud Imperium Games, following several complaints to the Federal Trade Commission. I believe that's just referencing the Forbes article there. It's still up in the air whether Amazon's game development division will ever release a title since its move to a AAA game development with a proper studio in 2014. Now that is offensive. A proper studio. If you're making a game, and I will go over some of the games that are being made for it in a second. I feel like, oh, we're not a proper studio. Until then, Amazon had focused mostly on mobile games. 2 years after the studio's initial announcement at the September 2016 TwitchCon, they revealed the first 3 games: Breakaway, Crucible, and New World. Breakaway was cancelled. In June, the alpha test for New World ended, and the servers shut down after 9 months, with no word on the project since. I suspect they are working on it. New World actually looks like it might be quite cool. It's sort of like an MMO, and it's got territory, sort of like PvP, expansion and capture, and lots of PvE stuff going on in there, and lots of sort of like, it looks like low fantasy, but it does have fantasy elements in it. It's sort of like colonization of America and lots of different factions. It looks pretty cool. It was worth considering as well that Amazon owns Twitch, which attempted to get into the game store market before quietly backing away in November of last year. Amazon certainly don't lack the resources to pursue game development. So perhaps if they manage to develop their own in-house engine, as many AAA developers do, they might just manage to release a proper game. See, I think they might be going the right way with Amazon, or perhaps having attempted to cheat around that in a way with Lumberyard, they'll move on to using a more industry standard solution like the Unreal Engine. Correction, we've also now cleaned up how we refer to Lumberyard and Star Citizen in the story. Apologies for the misunderstandings. It looks like they worded it previously that Star Citizen had dropped the Lumberyard engine, which wasn't correct. But I will also link that article down below. Bam. Oh, thank you very much for the donations, Shite. We all know Amazon doesn't lay off employees. They just die from exhaustion, and then their bodies are sent to Lumberyard where they're ground up for power. Wow. The drones. Just a thought. Thanks, bud. Thanks. Roy Johnson, first off, good morning. Second, this is past my bedtime. And third question, how many Amazon employees do you think CIG will hire? Well, no. I think they're working with them. So, let's talk a little bit about this. Okay? So, new dynamic vegetation system in Lumberyard, beta 1.19, now available. So, this came out a couple of days ago. This is the new version of Lumberyard. And we know that CIG are working with Lumberyard and Amazon in various ways, and Twitch and all that sort of jazz. Now, this has got some interesting things in it, because they basically keep on updating the Lumberyard engine to be more appealing to potential users of it. And you can use Lumberyard entirely free if you want to learn how it works and that sort of stuff. You just create an AWS account, download Lumberyard, and just get modding, creating games, whatever. Now, Star Citizen and its StarEngine, so basically it's a massively modified version of the CryEngine, then ported over to Lumberyard, then rebuilt whatever they needed to for Lumberyard, and then lots of different modules added by CIG themselves, including this like procedural generation tech and better tech for lots of different things. Now, one of the big things in this version of Lumberyard is new dynamic vegetation system, basically procedure generated grass placement and vegetation placement. And that is similar to what Star Citizen are doing with their harvestable entities spawning system and all that sort of stuff, and their improvements with the procedural generation with the version 4 of procedural generation that they are making at the moment. And we've seen some of this before. Again, in... Bam. So if we go here, we can see the Nordic forest biomes of... of Microtech, with, this was like from 6 to 9 months ago or so. You can see they're producing foliage in a similar-ish way. Obviously, it's a while ago now, but these improvements that Star Citizen have been making, they could be also being subsumed by Amazon, or maybe they're working together on them, or maybe they're taking bits from the Lumberyard engine that get improved and adding it to Star Citizen. Now, we previously know that CIG did say that changes to the Lumberyard engine, they can subsume some of them if they're sensible and if they're workable. Not all of them. Some of them are too far detached from the sort of like branch of the Lumberyard engine that the StarEngine has now gone in, because they might update the Lumberyard engine, but it might not be compatible with the vast changes that CIG have done. However, some of them will be, some of them won't. And it's just interesting to see that I do think that Lumberyard will benefit significantly from Star Citizen's like improvements to the multiplayer tech. Once they get like server meshing, once they get some of this server-side object container streaming stuff, I would expect Amazon Lumberyard to either start to use some of that to improve its engine, or for CIG to sell it to them potentially, or some sort of like somewhere in between that. I suspect they have some pretty good, some pretty interesting deals going. Obviously, this is slightly murkied by the Crytek versus CIG lawsuit, with at the moment sort of, as the way I read it, Crytek saying that, well, your game does contain Crytek code because Lumberyard is Crytek. It is based on the Crytek engine, and sort of CIG saying, no, if you didn't want other people to use Lumberyard and your sort of like some of your code through Lumberyard, you shouldn't have sold the code to Amazon in the first place, because we know that Star Citizen aren't bound to have to use the CryEngine. The court have already dismissed that. But anyway, I was quite interested in that. There were some other games that are being made on the Lumberyard engine as well. So we know that there's the released game. There's 2 released games. I don't know what this one is. Covenants. So Sweet Bandit Studios, apparently, you're not a real studio. Another of you Amazon Game Studios, you're not a real studio, not a proper studio. But so the Grand Tour game, yeah, whatever. We've got Star Citizen, which is now pretty much, I think, 142 have just been merged title-wise with Cloud Imperium. It's just sort of like Cloud Imperium. Behavior Interactive did start and help development early on, as did Ilphonic and places like that, and Moon Collider. But now it is pretty much in-house Cloud Imperium for everything, I believe. It's just Montreal's Thingamajig that does the web platform stuff. Thingamajig, that's a known studio. I don't know. What do you want from me? I don't know everything. I can't remember all the words. So we've got the DRG Initiative, a third-person shooter. We've got Breakaway, which is a MOBA, apparently, but I thought it was that's the one that was cancelled. We've got New World, which is the MMO. We've got the Crucible, which is the third-person shooter, but it is a battle royale game. We've got a fighting game that I didn't realise was released. And we've got Dead House Sonata, an action role-playing game, which I will check out, because I do not know anything about that. But yeah, so not many studios or games announced using the Lumberyard engine yet. I'm interested to see what they are able to do with New World. I don't give a damn about another Battle Royale game. When they fix the netcode in Apex Legends, I'll go back to that. But I've been playing as Overwatch recently. I'm a monster, I know. But New World, pretty cool. Cool looking, anyway. Might be in the alpha tests for it, who knows? Yeah, what do people think? So, do you think that Star Citizen are getting improvements from Lumberyard, or do you think it's the other way around, or do you think it's a bit of both ways? The other thing I suppose I wanted to talk about is Vulkan. So at the moment, I don't believe that Lumberyard has Vulkan support, and that's something that Star Citizen wants to support. And Vulkan is an extremely good idea for Star Citizen. It is effectively hardware neutral. It doesn't matter if NVIDIA or AMD want to write in some stuff that means, Star Citizen's going to run much better if you have this proprietary tech in the game that gives you like 50 frames per second or whatever. So I'm very, very happy that they use Vulkan for that. And obviously that then leads them to be able to do VR if they want to, and that sort of stuff. And I might very well switch over to an AMD PC next year or later this year because of that change, because of that addition of Vulkan support, because there's a lot of cool AMD tech coming out. So that might be a good time to swap, and it might be a lot cheaper. I don't know. I'm going to wait until I know more. But it's interesting because then Lumberyard may very well support Vulkan as well at the same sort of time if they are sharing technology together. But I am interested to know what you guys think. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For June, we have an Origin 890 Jump, the massive luxury ship that is a huge sort of like capital luxury ship. It's been donated by Odyssey Interstellar, a friendly industrial expansionist organization in Star Citizen that focus on mining, trading, industry, exploration, research, and infrastructure. In short, commerce is their goal. They run regular weekly events in-game now. Please check them out if you are looking for an org to join. Links down below. There are a couple of services I shield for as well that you might find useful. If you're looking for a VPN, then check out NordVPN. I use it for security, privacy, and more. It has massive advantages over free VPNs. And if you use the code BoredGamer, you get up to 75% off your subscription. Boom! Also, there is Shadow Cloud Gaming. This is an alternative to having your own or upgrading your gaming rig on PC. It leverages the power of the internet and your own Shadow server that emulates a high-spec Windows 10 PC, so you can play up to 144Hz 4K anywhere with an old PC, laptop, smartphone, or even tablet. Freedom to play anywhere. The internet is good enough anyway, and it works really well with Star Citizen and all the games that I play, and is constantly updated and even improved with new hardware. Again, use the code BoredGamer for discount. Links below to all of that jazz. Thank you to all that support the channel through Patreon, the YouTube join button, donation, subscribe star, as well as anyone that just generally subscribes, likes, comments, and shares my content. Dings that bell, ding ding. If you feel so inclined, you can find links to all of that down below. A special thank you though to my VIP producers this month: Dalamars, Catastros, Raz, Gear Khan, General Ventador, Robert Johnson, and Andy Green, who have given well beyond the norm in support for the channel. I know a load of other people have, but I can't name them all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.